The reason Royale, I don't, I look at that word, I'm like, Royale is probably not it, but I have no idea. Um, Minfilia would discuss how best to proceed in light of recent developments. I mean to scour the annals for knowledge of Midgardsormr. Given his great age, I dare say he appears in many more than a few. Hmm? Do you hear that? The commotion outside. Would you see if aught is amiss? Like, you... There seems to be some manner of commotion without. Pray see if aught is amiss. I mean, if you're that concerned, like, why don't you follow me? And it's just Alfie and that Crystal Brave talking. That doesn't really seem like much of a commotion. Lavenza, 'tis well that you are on hand. We have a problem. Royale has escaped. It happened shortly after the immortal flames took her into custody. She had been placed in the dungeon cell ahead of her coming trial, but apparently the accommodation was not to her liking. The turnkey was found slain along with 2 guards. 'Tis plain she received inside help. Citizens report seeing Royale quitting the city via the Gate of Nald, with a bloodied spear in her hand. She makes for Castrum Meridianum, I am certain of it. With her fate in Eorzea as good as sealed, what recourse has she but to flee to her imperial masters? Even as we speak, Captain Ilberd and the First are hot upon Ryal's heels. Pray make haste to Camp Blue Fog and join the hunt. Oh, I always mix up where the locations of Castrum Meridianum and Praetorium are. I mean, obviously they're like the same place, but I always think of Mordona, but that's Castrum Sentry. And I just did those quests like a week ago, less than a week ago. All right, okay, so Northern Thanalian and Camp Blue Fog. Yeah, I'm dreading Heavensward just for the names. I mean, it's just I'm gonna try. I mean, it's not even about trying to get it right, because when it's names that I believe they're like French or based on French, you know, like I'll put as much knowledge as I have of French, which is very, very little, into trying to get it right. But by and large, I'm probably just going to end up coming up with a name that I think might sound like it and then just running with it. My thanks for coming, Scion. I have spoken with these soldiers here. They say that Royale walked through the camp not a bell ago. Aye, she walked right through. You did not mishear. We have Raubon's decision to keep them... Wait. We have Raubon's decision to keep the matter secret to thank for that. Bad for morale, he said. As a result, not a single flame in the garrison made any attempt to detain her, and so here we are. Royale must not be allowed to reach Castrum Meridianum. So how far off is... Oh, she's quite a ways out there. Maybe would have been better if we met up at... I don't remember this. The petroleum, or... Not petroleum, but... Or ceruleum processing plant. Petroleum. Same. Oh. I'm gonna have to fight somebody. This wretch was with Royale. He threw himself at us with his mistress. Okay, he threw himself at us that his mistress might escape. She didn't blink when we cut him down, not even when he started screaming. No loyalty even to her own. Yeah, no loyalty even to her own. The goddamn harpy. With me, Scion. We almost have her. Once Royale alive. Get all the ads and then deal with her. Or there's just going to be an infinite number of ads. I don't know. I thought I should have at least, yeah. Like, why don't I have... Oh, because I used it all already. On top of my game right here. Big guy's taking a little bit longer to take out. I figured take out the weaker dudes first and then redirect to the big guy. Although it seems like the bowman he's fighting has a healer on him. Yeah, this seems just like an infinite... I mean, it may not be infinite, it's clearly scripted, but I never know, you know, when you're... Okay, she's already out of health, so this is clearly just a you gotta take down everything. Okay, yeah, that's it. Bind her and do it tight. Yes, sir. Good work, man. It still kind of blows me away that, like, these adult soldiers are just like, sure, like, I'll let a teenager command me. She and her Imperial cronies pushed us close, but we were better. Behold, a respected officer of the immortal flames. People looked up to you as one of the Order's founding members, one of its pillars. It saddens me to see you fallen so low. What would you know of low? You, a spoiled little lordling who has never known any want. I, I, People such as you take wealth and birth for granted. You think, you think it your God's given right to rule over others. You know not of our plight, the injustice that we low-born Ishgardians must endure. To the noble lords and ladies, we are not people, but resources to be consumed. I did what I had to do to survive. Stealing, killing, even whoring myself. It is no fault of mine if fools imagine me a paragon when I join the flames. To hear you tell it, one would think you the only person ever to have suffered. In case you have forgotten, Raubon himself was born into poverty, as was I. We lived hand to mouth with little more than the shirts on our backs. Hunger was our constant companion. Yet never did we bemoan our lot in life, nor did we begrudge others their misfortune or their fortunes. We accepted the hand that we had been dealt and played it to the best of our ability. It seems like such a flip, from this to... Yeah, I don't know. Life was a battle, aye, but no matter what fate threw at us, we took it on the chin and came back for more. Everything we have, we fought for. How are we any different then? 'Tis true that we were both mercenaries of lowly birth. And 'tis true that we both had our fair share of struggles. But whereas I sold my sword, you, Marshal, you sold your comrades. If life has taught me one thing, it is that you never betray your own. I would sooner cut off my own arm than raise a hand against a friend. Wow. Like that, those two lines there are like some twisted foreshadowing. And again, it's one of those things like when you're going through this the first time, it means nothing to you. I'm sure most people don't even remember that line. But enough talk. You will return to Ul'dah to face justice, and the people whose trust you have dragged through the gutter. Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty clear. Like in some cases, with talk of the rejoining and all that type of stuff, I mean, it's clear, like, they've had at least, the very general overarching story since the beginning. But even story bits like this, it's like they're clearly not going a patch at a time. Like they knew that they were going to write Ilberd as a bad guy, in just 2 patches. So I joined the Crystal Braves that I might strike a blow against the Empire. Those who cast their lot with Garlemald should expect no better treatment. Not so much as a hint of remorse. 'Tis well that this sordid business is finally at an end. A friend's betrayal cuts deeper than steel. We must hope that we have chosen our allies more wisely than Raubon chose his. Nope.
I've heard. Truly bothersome business.
Oh, God. He's even got just such a snooty voice.
No, I do not foresee a problem on that front. The main concern is Raubon. There is no telling what the brute might do. Have the Blades watch him in the flames day and night. You may leave the Sultana to me. I shall personally attend her grace. sever one of the East Aldenard trade routes. That ought to keep Lolorito occupied for a while. Nanamo Ulnamo. For my sake, pray be a good little sultana to the last.
So it's pretty clear, like, I mean, if you remembered this cutscene, like, you'd know exactly who was in charge of everything that happens at that dinner. Like Royale, I once made my way as a mercenary, and like her, I did more than a few things I am not proud of. But never once did I betray my own. There are depths to which a man should not sink. I mean, I guess clearly he just doesn't think of the Crystal Braves as his own, or he just changes. Let us cling together. Alphino would ask another favor of you. Captain Ilbert and I have a few questions for the Flame Marshal regarding the circumstances of her miraculous escape. When we have completed our interrogation, we shall take our findings directly to General Raubon, and that shall be the end of it. Your work here is done, my friend. My thanks. Ah, but I have one last task for you. Return to the Rising Stones and apprise Minfilia of all that has happened. I am aware that the antecedent held Royale in high regard. For better or worse, she will want to know how this tale ends. Pray return to the Rising Stones. But yeah, it's pretty clear that you know, Teleji Adeleji was the mastermind of this, like, from the get-go. I mean, as soon as anything... See, I honestly don't really know what I was thinking the first time through. Is this the same as before? Yeah, no. Yeah, no, it's the same. It's just like looking at him, I'm like, something looks different, but probably wrong. But yeah, anyway, now, you know, like, I'm well aware of that final A Realm Reborn cutscene. Like, I've watched that since then. I've watched other people react to it and stuff like that. And, you know, did not remember all this stuff with Teleji, and, like, it's pretty clear, like, yeah, he's the mastermind behind all of this stuff. And even what he said about severing trade routes, you know, to keep Lolorito occupied, like, it's clear Lolorito is not involved, at least in his plan, or on his side of the plan. Anyway.
Welcome back, my friend. I have already received word from Alphino. To think that Flame Marshal Huayu was the Garlean agent. I know not what to say. Together with Robon, Eline lent us much-needed aid at the time of our Order's founding. She was particularly passionate about the need to tackle the primal threat. When we discussed the subject, her eyes fairly shone with determination. Whatever else she may have been, I choose to believe that it was her true self with whom I spoke then. But now is not the time to dwell on such matters. I have an important announcement to make regarding our effort to defeat the Asians. We shall begin as soon as everyone is assembled.
So it was like Ryu or something like that was how you pronounce it. Totally didn't get that right.
My thanks for coming, friends. Moonbreeder, the floor is yours.
By now, I'm sure you're all familiar with White Auracite, the miraculous material that will allow us to capture Asian souls. Back at Snowcloak, we verified its ability to absorb vast amounts of ether. Alas, it leaves something to be desired in the area of stability. The stone can only store ether for a short while before expelling its contents.
In addition to Orosite's inherent limitations, we must needs be wary of our enemy's strength. Our foe draweth upon an infinite wellspring of power. Even should we succeed in entrapping him, the stone will not long contain his wrath.
Meaning that, if we want to kill the swine, we'll have to be quick about it.
'Tis our belief that an Ascian soul may be permanently undone, if smitten by a sufficiently concentrated burst of pure ether.
The only trouble is, we can't say for sure how concentrated the burst needs to be. Without knowing how much ether an Ascian soul is composed of, we're basically guessing.
Our sole clue lieth in thy struggle with La Habrea.
During that encounter, Heidelin bid you forge what she called a Blade of Light, a weapon which took the form of a luminous stream of energy. Based on your description, we believe the blade with which you vanquished your foe was composed of ether. Admittedly, your victory proved ephemeral, as La Habrea was able to use a crystal of darkness to flee into the space that lies between our world and the void. The fact remains, however, that Heidelin placed the means to destroy the Ascians in your hands. Be that as it may, it would be unwise to assume that she will do the same when we next encounter such a foe.
Quite so, my lady. We must needs find the means to forge our own blade of ether, one to equal that which Heidelin did benevolently bestow upon her champion.
That is all well and good, but it seems to me that producing such a blade will require a prodigious quantity of ether. Whence will it come, pray tell?
Sad face.
Oh, what if we had two pieces of white orosite? One to trap the Ascian, and the other to store the ether for the blade.
Oh, nice try. But it's as I said, the stone won't hold ether for any length of time. We'd still need to collect the stuff there and then, sorry to say.
And therein lies the rub. Finding a way to create the blade whenever and wherever we choose.
'Twould seem more research is in order.
I'm going to linger a while, perform a few more tests on the Orosite. And I could do with some help. Urianger, why don't you lend me a hand?
Mine apologies, but I am required at the Waking Sands. Lady Minfilia hath given me sole charge of the premises. 'Twould be unseemly to leave them unattended.
Sole charge, you say? So you're basically alone there, then? Well, that settles it. I'll just have to come to you.
While you were afield, word arrived from the Sharlayan motherland. You will recall that a survey party was dispatched to investigate the incident at the Isle of Vow. What they discovered was troubling, to say the least. According to the report, the Isle has been erased from existence. 'Twas as if a hole had been torn in the very fabric of reality.
Aye, yet the mystery endeth not with the Isle's disappearance. It hath come to light that a number of scholars in various other locales were reported missing at a similar juncture.
What's more, they all had something in common with the head of the students of Baldessian. Every last one of them was researching a phenomenon called dimensional compression, or the rejoining as the ancient texts call it. I'll be damned if that's a coincidence.
All indications suggest Ascian involvement, but I sense that a force greater still is at work. The entity the Dark Beings call the One True God. We must pray that my dear friend Kryl regains consciousness soon. If she bore witness to the Isle of Val's final moments, she may be able to shed some light on this mystery.
Okay, so a lot to say there. First, I don't remember the exact details of it. Of Moonbreeda's death, other than like my assumption from what I remember is essentially she sacrificed, like she uses all of her ether to ensure that we have enough, to create a sufficient blade of light or whatever. I assume that's it. That sounds right. So yeah, it just sucks going into this knowing, she's going to sacrifice herself. And then of course this whole, like I had no idea, I knew about the disappearance of the Isle of Val. It's crazy that that this stuff comes up so early, and then as far as I can remember doesn't get addressed again until Stormblood, but I could be wrong and it does. So I mean, we'll find out as we get into Heavensward and so forth. But again, that rejoining is brought up. I mean, it's no surprise at this point they've mentioned it. Well, I think they've only mentioned the rejoining once before, but Ascians have said things that alluded to the same thing. So yeah, I mean, they clearly seeded, the story and what we find out in Shadowbringers like way early on. Or maybe some of this stuff I missed so much of it early on that it became clear to me in Shadowbringers, but it was revealed earlier. I don't know. Ooh, cutscene. Was not expecting this. Although I think this is end of 2.4, so...
Following the calamity, the forces of the 14th Imperial Legion entrenched themselves in strategic locations across Eorzea. So swiftly did they accomplish this, it was suspected that they had received help. To think that it came from Huayu, my right hand.
Huayu.
There is more. We have reason to believe that Huayu didn't deal exclusively with the 14th. She also answered to a higher authority in Garlemald. But this higher authority could not have been the Emperor. By consenting to the media project, Solus Zos Galvus showed himself to be more concerned about preventing the spread of primal influence than claiming Eorzea for the Empire. He would happily have seen the lot reduced to ash. We believe a number of high-ranking figures within the royal household were against the decision, but that they knew better than to oppose the Emperor openly. Of course, this didn't prevent them from making clandestine provisions, in which Huayu played a part.
Alas, these provisions did not prevent Dalamud from falling, and the ensuing chaos changed the face of the realm forever. Yet Eorzea survived. To all intents and purposes, the Meteor Project had failed, and the Empire was left to rue its lack of a decisive means to eliminate the primals. Until, that is, it stumbled upon the Ultima weapon.
Even before the accursed thing was dug up, it seemed to me the 14th had the might to overwhelm our weakened armies. Yet they chose to hide behind their walls. Why?
The Black Wolf was wary of making the denizens of Eorzea desperate, lest more primals emerge to bleed the land. The discovery of the Ultima weapon, however, emboldened him to resume his war of conquest in earnest.
But there was one in Garlemald who believed that Van Belsar's actions were premature. One who stood higher in the Imperial Army's chain of command. He ordered the Legatus to halt his advance, only to find that the Black Wolf had slipped its leash, and that the 14th now acted alone. In a bid to bring Van Belsar to heel, he used the agent he had planted in Ul'dah prior to the Calamity to undermine the Legion's efforts.
A man who outranks Van Belsar, yet opposed the late Emperor's decision to annihilate Eorzea. This could only be the former High Legatus of the Garlean army, now known as Emperor Varus Zos Galvus. So he was Huayu's true master.
But one of several in actual fact. We've learned that even as Huayu served the Empire's interests, she sold Imperial secrets to a certain faction in Eorzea. In so doing, she helped to maintain the status quo, thus prolonging the conflict. Considering who stands to profit from war, it isn't hard to imagine who her other masters were.
Seven hells! You mean to say that she was a double agent?
Triple, if you consider her services to Van Belsar and the new Emperor as separate.
As neatly as these pieces seem to fit, one aspect of the puzzle remains unclear to me. By whose will was the Marshal feeding intelligence to the heretics? And try as I might, I fail to see how aiding their cause would profit either her Imperial or monetarist masters. Could it be that another hand is at work here? If so, Huayu must be made to reveal whose it is.
Not only have I lost a trusted friend, now I must interrogate her as a stranger.
Not a pleasant task, I grant you, but a necessary one. Unless we weed out the ivy, root, stalk, and stem, it will simply grow back.
I know that full well. Those closest to Huayu have already been detained, and I will question them alongside her.
General, pray keep in mind that there may be unwitting abettors among them.
All will be treated fairly. On that you have my word. Those who are innocent have no cause to fear.
You have ever been a friend of truth, General. I hope the unpleasant task of weeding out falsehood will not detain you too long. Though it be for the sake of Eorzea, doubting one's comrades is poison to the soul. And with that, I take my leave.
All these years, I've been made to dance to their tune. How could you, Huayu? How could you side with them? Those cankers who take from this land and give naught in return, who use their power to disempower and grow fat while the people starve. I know you can hear me, monetarist scum! Your crimes will not go unpunished! One day I will purge this land of your sickness! Before the eyes of the 12, I swear it!
He hates the monitorists more than even the Garleans.
I shall have no further need of you this day. Your Grace. I fear that not even mine own chambers shall remain private for long.
Has the situation grown so grim?
Ever since he proposed the Cartiner Reclamation Bill, Teleji Adeleji has risen to greater prominence upon the backs of impoverished refugees. The monetarists were ever united in their pursuit of profit, but the man's actions have torn a rift in their ranks. They snap at each other as rabid dogs. Yet now is not the time to be bickering among ourselves.
If this bickering is a threat to law and order, might you not have grounds to dissolve the Syndicate?
Would that the solution were so simple, Admiral. Alas, my moving to dissolve the Syndicate is certain to spark outrage among the influential merchant class, whom the Cabal represents. This would serve to exacerbate the current unrest, and peace would slip still further away. Be they rich or poor, natives or refugees, all who reside in Ul'dah have a right to pursue happiness. It is the duty of a ruler to protect this right. If I am to perform my duty, I must needs tread warily. It would not do to make enemies heedlessly. Were Lord Lolorito here, he would doubtless say that I have my head in the clouds.
A ruler is required to take a wide view. Try as we might to cater to all needs, some will inevitably be overlooked. As such, there shall ever be citizens who feel aggrieved. It cannot be helped. But as you have informed us, the monetarists take no view but their own. They hunger for power while the masses starve. In the absence of a common cause, it seems beyond any one individual to make Ul'dah whole.
And the presence of a Garlean agent within the Immortal Flames only makes matters worse. Even accounting for Uldah's historic reliance upon mercenaries, such a grievous breach of security is unprecedented. I fear this business will provide the monetarists with a rod to beat Rauban.
Eorzea can ill afford for the Immortal Flames to be dampened now. Ere long, the Garleans will turn their ravenous gaze toward our lands once more. If we are to resist their might, our nations must stand together. Yet for this to happen, our nations must be whole. Cannot be done to improve the situation in Ul'dah.
The true wealth of Ul'dah lies in the health, happiness, and hopes of her citizens. Alas, the citizens shall never know these things, so long as their lives are ruled by the ambitions of the few. The monetarists claim to represent the best interests of the people, but in sooth they desire only to manipulate them for their own selfish ends. For the government to serve the people, it must be formed of the people. For Ul'dah to move forward, it is not only the Syndicate that must be dissolved.
Nay, you jest.
My friends, it was for no other reason than to make known to you mine intent that I requested your presence here. When I make my declaration to the people, chaos shall inevitably ensue. As the last monarch in the line of Ul, I make unto you this request. Help Rauban to preserve order and protect the people. Forsake them, and you forsake yourselves. For a strong Eorzea will ever have need of a strong Ul'dah.
Your Grace, are you certain of this?
There is no other way. When the time is ripe, the nation shall become a true republic. Both royalists and monetarists shall cease to be. Ul'dah will no longer belong to kings or queens or merchant princes, but to her people. Rauban, forgive me for casting aside all that you have toiled for in my name. Beyond this gesture, I am powerless to help my subjects.
Okay, there's a lot to be said about all of that. I was not expecting a long cutscene at the end of that patch. For a second there, I was like, wow, I mean, it didn't give me the warning. So, what was it, like, Huayu or something is the way they pronounced her name? Yeah, there was no way in hell I was ever going to get that right. Wow. And then they talked about her being like a triple agent. But she was really like a quintuple, sextuple agent or something like that. Because from what it sounded like, she was working for the Garleans. Both like the major Garleans and Gaius. She was working for the Immortal Flames. She was working for the Monetarists, and she was working for or with or whatever the Heretics. That's at least 5. Like, she was, I don't know, just out for money or power, for, working all these different angles. I don't know. But yeah, it was kind of hard following exactly like what she was doing. There was just so much of it. And then obviously, Raubon and his whole hatred of the Monetarists and everything that happened there. But with Nanamo and her, telling the other Alliance leaders about, her wanting to step down and then make Ul'dah a republic, it's really kind of telling that even now in Shadowbringers, it's still not a republic. And I don't remember exactly what the reasons were for her not giving up the throne. Maybe it was just because the others would not give up their power, and so she needed to stay in the throne just to balance them out, or something. I don't know. I don't remember it, but I know that like Ul'dah is not a republic. People in power don't want to give up power. But yeah, and then certainly her talking about, oh, this is going to create chaos. It's like, you don't even know the half of it. Or maybe at least later, maybe she does know some of it. Because I know, at least to some degree, her poisoning was planned. In that, like, she wouldn't be poisoned, but just, like, put to sleep for a time or whatever. But I don't know how in the know of that whole plan she was. We'll find out later in Heavensward. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed it, please like, comment, and subscribe. And if you want to join me live, the link to my Twitch is down below. Thank you again, and have a great one.